It is a football Friday here on Birds 365. You got Mac and Mac, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. We appreciate you putting your brackets down for a couple hours to listen to a little football talk here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Johnny Mac, after watching 12 hours of college basketball yesterday, glad to be getting into football talk with you again this morning. The Eagles believe in Parris. Does John
They always have.
believe
They always
in
have.
Parris?
No, I don't. It's funny. This is another player the Eagles almost drafted when they drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside back in whenever it was, 2019-ish, I think. It came down to Jay Jaw and Parris Campbell. And at the time, Howie Roseman and it was Joe Douglas. They wanted to draft Parris Campbell, and it was Jeffrey Lurie kind of steered them in the wrong direction. You know what? I can't even say it's wrong direction because neither of them developed. However, Parris Campbell's at least still in the NFL, so I guess he gets a slight advantage.
Yes.
But yeah, neither one would have worked probably. So yeah, had some injury issues, but he's, I talk about draft proofing the roster. This to me is an example of that. It's funny. I wrote about the Eagles had 3 spots over at Sports Illustrated. They still needed to address to draft proof the roster: slot corner, third receiver, and swing tackle on offense. And Howie, in those 24 hours, he got the slot corner and he got the wide receiver 3 to at least, so you go into the draft and say, it's the 4th, 5th round, whatever, and your pick's coming up. I need somebody to compete at third receiver. You don't have to do that because you bring in a guy who's at least competent in theory. We'll see if it works out. He had one decent season in his walk year in Indianapolis on his rookie deal, caught 60 passes. What's funny, he was a really fast guy coming out of college, and it has not shown up in the NFL. What the catches he has made, not a good yards per reception. Now, part of that is he generally plays in the slot, so it's shorter routes. It's, if you're not getting yards after catch, it can look ugly. But last year with the Giants, I mean, he was really bad. Now, again, the quarterback situation we all know, but he ran a 4.31 coming out. So it's never shown, it was like 9 yards a catch in Indianapolis in his final year. Last year was like 5 yards a catch, was like a running back. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get excited about it, but is he better than Quez Watkins and Olamide Zaccheaus? Maybe a slight upgrade.
Right, which we'll only see when training camp opens up. Like you said, draft proofing the roster is smart. He's a veteran. He's been there. Yes, at one point the Eagles did like him. They couldn't like him that much because last year, if you thought he was better than Quez Watkins, you would have got out and signed him as a free agent wide receiver off his lone good year in Indianapolis. You didn't. The Giants did. So I'm not buying into the long-awaited arrival of Parris Campbell. You could have done last year. They didn't.
No, I'm just pointing out they did like him in 2019. But as again, 2019 to 2024 might as well be, 50 years.
That's a long time ago in NFL years. You are 100% correct. I'm not knocking or mocking the signing. No one can. We don't know the details yet. All we know is it's a 1-year deal. That's it. You don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be for the veteran minimum. Not 100%, but pretty darn sure. So, I mean, financially, it's not going to be, they can cut him. They can move on. If he plays well in camp and he earns a job, good for Parris Campbell, and they're not able to get an upgrade in the draft, good for him. If not, you can move on and go to the next guy.
Right. So I don't think this was the savior of the third wide receiver spot. It's an option, and you need options. You like to have options, and if his is an inexpensive 1-year option, that's a good place to be. We'll see if it's how many players have signed now for veteran minimum. Not a lot. I still think we're in quote unquote phase 2, which means you're getting a little bit more than the veteran. When you get toward the after the draft free agent phase, then guess what? You take whatever the hell if a team offers you a contract, you snap it up and you take the minimum and you go to camp and you fight like hell to make a roster. We'll see. Not like I'm saying it's going to be a $4 million deal, but there could be. And the Eagles have been very good with this during this off season, and it'd be very easy to write incentives into Parris Campbell's contract because you can basically give him any kind of number. It's not going to count against the cap because he was so bad with the New York Giants last year. 20 catches, like you said, 5 and change yards.
5.2 yards. I just looked it up. 5.2 yards a catch.
That's for a wide receiver, not a running back or a tight end. That's a wide receiver. That's borderline embarrassing. So if you wanted to give him incentives in the deal, you could do that because they wouldn't count against the cap. He'd have to go out and earn them because they compare it to what he's done previously, and they lean heavily on what you did the previous year. We did next to nothing with the Giants. The old action about the Bears and the quarterback positions where quarterbacks go to die. You'd say that about the New York Giants the last 4 or 5 years at the wide receiver position. Yeah, they do nothing, and Parris Campbell filled right in there last year by doing next to nothing with the Giants. But like you said, John, it's a good signing because it gives them depth, and depth sometimes equates to nothing. Sometimes it ends up paying dividends. I'm perfectly fine with the signing of a Parris Campbell as a depth guy, as long as it's not a move him into the top 51 salary type deal where you actually have to redo your math on where you're at on the salary cap.
Well, I do think he'll be in the top 51. The top 51 cutoff for the Eagles, let me double check, is Tanner McKee, 961. 961 630. So Tanner McKee is the cutoff. So I don't even know what the veteran minimum is. Probably 1.1, 1.2. Maybe it went up because of the. I have to look that up. But yeah, so he'll count against the top 51, and they'll lose about 200-300 grand of cap space. Now you're right; they might have some incentives, but and even Oren Burks. If you saw Oren Burks, it was up to 2.5 million 1 year, up to 2. He probably got a better minimum deal with some incentives. Right. And that you're right, Campbell might get some incentives, but I'm pretty sure the base is going to be better than minimum. We'll see how it shakes out, but yeah, he'll count against, but at the bottom of the top 51. So you lose a couple $100 grand, but that's fine at this time of year. I mean, guys who are going to make the team, younger players like, I'm looking at the cap now. Moro Ajomo is going to make the team unless something drastic happens. Eli Ricks probably going to make the team. Ben Van Sumeren probably going to make the team. They don't even count against the salary cap right now because of where they are on the list. So, plenty of things to shake up, but the top 51 rule in the offseason applies.
And the other thing about Parris Campbell, and I'm just stating a fact here. I'm not even giving an opinion because I really didn't watch Parris Campbell return kicks for the New York Giants last year. The kick returner position, if the NFL decides to change its kickoff procedure and put in this XFL rule that allows basically almost borderline forces kickoff returns, that's going to become a viable position again.
Yeah.
Last year, yeah. Boston Scott was the kickoff returner for the Eagles. Yeah, so he almost never returned any kicks. Everybody kicks the ball out of the end zone. You don't even bother trying to catch it. You just let it bounce and you move on. It was, I believe, 20.4% of kicks in the NFL were returned last year, which means 4 out of every 5. It's a touchback. They're going to, if this rule change passes, that's going to change this year. There will be no more touchbacks, no more fair catches. You're going to have to get into the end zone and watch the ball bounce out of the end zone. You're going to be obligated to catch the football. It's going to have to bounce out of the end zone for you to get a touchback, which means they are trying to get kickoff returns back into it. I know he's done it in his career, and he did it last year for the Giants. I without knowing how this kickoff is going to work going forward. I've read it 20 times now, and I still don't completely understand how I think it's going to play when they actually get out there on the field. But somebody's going to need to do it. Is
Yeah.
it going to be a punt, more of a punt return type guy than a kickoff return type guy? I don't know that, but Parris Campbell does have experience, and Eagles don't have a lot of guys on their roster that have kick return experience.
Yeah, and it is interesting because I just from the I haven't seen it. I did watch a little XFL, but I didn't watch it religiously, and it seems like more of a punt type environments when it comes to returns because the offense and defense are lined up close together. They can't move until the ball hits the ground, the returner. So in theory, kick returners were different than punt returners, and that's why it's somebody like Devin Hester did both at such a high level. That's kind of rare. It doesn't happen. You usually have good kick returners, good punt returners. It's like slot corners and outside corners. The punt returners, their goal is to make the first guy miss and then be short area quickness and be very elusive and then get going. Whereas the kick returners, it was foot in the ground, bang, go. And then if you can break the first tackle, so you needed some power, and then you had long speed. And I always point to Cordero Patterson. He's the best example. He'd break the first tackle, and then if you didn't have contained, he was just gone. He had that long speed. So a little bit different. In theory, if I were Michael Clay and I'm projecting, I would think it's more of a Britton Covey type role than a Cordero Patterson type role if they change the rules the way they're saying they may change the rules.
Right. And to be truthful with you, John, if you've got a good grasp on it, you want to say you believe that's going to be the case, go for it. I'm not even, I don't understand it well enough to say that. I really don't. I need to see it.
Yeah, you got to see it play out. You definitely. I'm just saying, in my mind,
right.
You kind of,
and that's what the Eagles have to do. They have to figure it out ahead of time. They have to make a borderline commitment to the type of player that they're going to use for that return. And I don't know what type of player fits it best. I think experience in either one, returning punts or returning kickoffs, is a good thing rather than somebody just trying it for the first time. And I give Parris Campbell at least this much. He's done some kickoff returning. Will he be good with it in this new format if the NFL goes to? Your guess is as good as mine. But I can say I think he's better at it than somebody who's never done it before. That's the one little plus to the resume I'll give Parris Campbell. At least he's done kickoff returns in his NFL.
By the way, I got to look up Boston Scott. But by the way, yeah, the kickoff returns he was at 8 for the Giants last year, 8 total. And Boston was probably, I don't know, I'm guessing 12 or 13. That's how meaningless the kickoff return has become in the NFL. And that's why they're thinking about changing the rule, obviously.
And I will give Eagle fans credit. And when I say Eagle fans, I mean all Eagle fans, the good, the bad, the indifferent, the smart, ahead of the curve, the absolutely ridiculous, all in one big pile and putting everybody, including all our good streamers here on Birds 365. I was proud to say, prior to the Parris Campbell signing and or after, I got not one tweet. I wasn't on WIP. Yes, I was on the day before, and it wasn't my show. Not one, hey, we could get T. Higgins to be our number 3 wide receiver because
you didn't get one? I'm surprised.
Not one, nor did I get one. We could get OBJ tweet.
Oh, that's hey. I'm glad, man. I'm surprised by that.
Exactly.
By the way, Boston Scott 8 kickoff returns as well last year.
8 apiece between he and Parris.
8 apiece.
Yeah, that's where kickoff returns were in the National Football League, but it could be a whole nother story. We'll have to see when the owners' meetings come down and they actually get to vote on potential rule changes. I do want to give the nod to Eagle fans, because they do fall into the big name trap altogether too often. No one went down that road, at least not so far this year. And now, with the massive signing of Parris Campbell, I have faith that no one will go down that road. Yeah, then again, maybe not. I may get that tweet later on today. What do you mean, no OBJ? Why can't we get OBJ? He can step in. No, he doesn't need to step here. He won't be stepping in here. The Eagles are where they are with their wide receivers. That is just one topic we're going to talk about with our first guest. Forget about Tuesdays with Maury. We got Fridays with Damo here on Birds 365. Longtime Eagle beat writer, national writer, doing it these days for the 33rdteam.com and us here at JAKIBSports.com. Paul Domwich, Hall of Fame selector and Hall of Fame writer, in my estimation, joins us next here on Birds 365.